Friends, family, and keepers of the faith, welcome to another Del Boy blog. And as always, I'm going to date stamp this. It's year 4, blog 31. It's in legacy numbers, blog number 187, and it's dated the 21st of September 2025. And it's been a okayish week. Today, it's beautifully sunny, bloody cold. That's all I can say. Now, that might be because I haven't got my heaters in my room anymore, but that doesn't matter as long as my mum's warm, and that's what matters. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but first of all, we'll get the news out the way. So we start off, as we always do, with the war, because that's how this blog started. The war was 2 weeks in. And the news article was not great this morning. It says, Czech president said, shoot down trespassing Russian jets if necessary, after the Russian jets entered Estonian airspace on Saturday night for over 12 minutes. This is listed as a violation of Alliance airspace and considered teetering on the edge of retaliation conflict. And NATO is to meet in Estonia next week to discuss the incursion. Oh my God. Yeah, we reported on these jets and so forth that were sort of like hanging about and going into Poland and Romanian airspace last week. And it seems like it's escalating. They're now doing more of this. So, you know, we just want the war to end, don't we? There hasn't been much in the way of what we're doing about peace, and it might be because of other things that are going on in the background that's taking coalition help away. And what I mean by that is a little bit of news after this, which is the UK news. So we start off with a story that started last week, and right at the beginning, Lord Mandelson was sacked as ambassador to the US. Bound sure to be happening. If you look at last week, you'll see that his right to be ambassador was questioned because of Epstein, his coalition or relationship with him, whether it's in the past or not. So he went. What happened to me this week? Well, we had the Deputy Prime Minister address the MOJ on Wednesday. He wanted to talk about his vision of the Ministry of Justice on his appointment after the sacking of the last Deputy Prime Minister and the reshuffle, again, see, a couple of weeks ago. So he gave an interesting speech. It was similar to ones I've heard many times before. You know, like some people will look back and say, what's happening in the future is awful. Wasn't it better in the past? But in the past, we were complaining about that. So, yeah, I've heard that speech quite a few times, but it didn't inspire me, but, you know, it didn't faze me in any way either. More news. Trump's second state visit happened this week. 2 days, one in Windsor, one at Chequers. To be quite honest, a lot of people, and I have spoken to people at work, just thought it's all pomp. And it's nice, you know, to see all of this spectacle. We were assured that all of the food has been locally sourced. All the flowers were from the garden at Windsor. So was some of the food sourced at Windsor. All of that is to help us understand the costing. But there was a heck of a lot of people there. There was sports people, there was political people from all over the world, and it can be good because that's good for England. All of that coverage. But, you know, a lot of people have their own opinion of the royals. For me, they've always just been there. I'm not a royalist, but I am English, British, and proud. And, you know, I do know that a lot of money has come in based on royalty. But I won't say any much more on that. But it was interesting because all of the news was talking about, when do you think Will Steimer will bend the ear of the president and start talking about tariffs and the war and all of this sort of stuff? And they were all saying, well, it won't going to happen at the state part of Windsor, but it might happen in the Chequers part. And lo and behold, in the afternoon on the following day, and after Chequers, the president and our prime minister came on. The prime minister said the talks went really well, and a lot of jobs and a lot of money is coming our way. And then Trump came on, and basically he just talked about America. Oh, trillions we're going to make from this. We've got a great deal. We're happy with our relationship with Britain. Britain's got some of the best stuff going, and it started talking about the contract with airspace and all of this sort of stuff. And to be quite honest, it was all America, 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 and that's all it came across as. And it seemed like the deal was going to benefit them more than it was going to benefit us, and that's what I've heard many, many times before. And it just goes over my head, and I go, you know what? We're not going to get anything. Do you know what I mean? Didn't cover me with anything other than that. And the last story is really a little continuation of sort of Land Rover, really, because Heathrow and many European airports have been hit with a cyber attack at the baggage and check-in stations, considering causing all sorts of congestion and disruption. That's it. And cyber attacks. What can we do about cyber attacks? You'd think that with all of the security that we keep hearing about and all of that sort of stuff, that, you know, the cyber attackers are always many steps in front of us. And now, you know, they targeted Land Rover that's caused so much disruption. I think they've started again now. The staff are back. People are able to order their parts, but a couple of companies went under. A couple, I say, possibly more. I mean, we could be talking hundreds, because they couldn't get their parts, and that was their bread and butter, and they're gone. And, you know, some people would say, well, that's opportunist now for other people to step in and do that. Swings and roundabouts, some people might say. I just look at it that cyber attacks, we've all, I think, or possibly a lot of the people that watch this have been hit with a hack of some sort. Sometimes we could put ourselves to blame on this, and I definitely can with some of mine. And, you know, we have to protect ourselves. You know, it brings into all sorts of play about Windows 10's death and Windows 11's birth, and all of that sort of stuff, being as Windows is one of the biggest operators out there. I don't know Heathrow's situation, what their base operating system is, whether it's a lot of the baggage stuff might be handled by its own operating system, designed specifically, but being as it's hit European airports as well, I should think that there is a common denominator on an exploit here, and that's all I can really say on the matter. I mean, I am a security officer at the MOJ, and I know the upticks and the downticks of all of this, what we can do, what we can't do, money, all sorts of stuff, how we educate, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's not great. And two other sad stories. I mean, it started off as a bad week anyway. Rest in peace, Ricky Hatton. Now, that might not mean an awful lot to the lot of people that watch the blog, but to me, that was a biggie. Ricky Hatton was a boxer. and a darn good one. I was in Manchester when I discovered Ricky Hatton. I was talking to the father of my girlfriend at the time up in Manchester, and he talked about the lifestyle of Ricky Hatton, you know, because he was a local lad. My dad knew more about it. He used to call me from home here and call me at my house in Manchester. And I said that Sky are showing this boxer from Manchester down at the Manchester Evening Arena. And he said, oh, the Ricky Hatton fight. I said, yeah. And he would go on about, oh, yeah, he's up and coming and he's a body puncher. And he said, you know, and he goes for the kidneys. And very, very explosive, very strong person. He won't go for the head. He'll go for the body every time he'll be looking at it. And I managed to get tickets for two of the fights. They were for Tony Depp and John Bailey. I had to look for my tickets this week to look for that. They were in 2001. They were explosive fights. I went with by myself to those fights. So it was a bit scary going to the Manchester Evening Arena by your own to any event really like this. I didn't know how to get there. I went on the tube, you know, the rail service, which is totally different to home because we haven't got one other than the main train systems. There's no local like tram system, and I had to use that. And I remember going there, seeing the fight. I was pretty close. I saw the fight. It was blistering pace. I think one of them ended in the 5th round. And yeah, just like my dad said, body punches. My God, you should see they buckle. It hits down the kidneys. They buckle to one knee, and then they're winded and they can't get up. What a fighter! And you know, I think we've all seen the news in the past about Ricky Hatton, you know, because as soon as he did a fight, he'd bloat out. He would eat, he would drink, he would party, and then he'd train like mad to get to the right weight and everything, and then go for his next fight. That's just the way he was. And that must have been telling on his body. And he retired and then came out of retirement. And I think he was even training for another fight. But I'm not quite sure. He was found dead at his home. This was on a Sunday. It was reported on Monday about his death. And I don't know the ins and outs, but yeah, he was an after-dinner speaker, Barry McGuigan said, and he would talk about his addictions. You know, some drugs, but mostly drink and food, you know, binging. And yeah, I just found it very, very sad that we lost him. And then, after being rattled by that, discovered on, I think it was Wednesday, that Robert Redford had died. Now, what an actor Robert Redford was. As soon as I think it was Tuesday I heard about it, I managed to find the time to watch a couple of films before doing my sort of like I don't know what's the best way to announce it. You know, my sort of, because it's not mine, it's Ian Hill the Ramblings collaboration that we do on a Wednesday, and I wanted to talk about the films that I'd seen in since the last time, which was quite a lot of old films really, ones that are on early evening and I'm in bed and I'm trying to get to sleep, and I've been going to sleep a lot and to bed a lot earlier and listening to audiobooks afterwards. So I'd watch those as much as I can on a early evening, and they would end, you know, 10:30, 11, and I'm already in bed. And then I'd listen to an audiobook until I wake up in the morning, which is 6 in the morning. So, you know, that has helped an awful lot. And it was just really sad. So I watched The Natural, and The Great Gatsby as my 2 films. I could have watched Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, but it's been on telly an awful lot recently. I've seen that. And I didn't know quite what to watch other than the older stuff. I could have watched, is it Hackers or Sneakers? Could have watched Sneakers. I could have watched an awful lot. But I watched 2 that I remember watching at home here and enjoyed them a lot. And it made me sad, to be quite honest, thinking about him. Definitely rest in peace, those 2. And then it comes to my week, and my week has really been concentrating on my mum. You may remember last week that my mum was in a lot of pain because of her legs. She gets better during the day, but in the morning, after being in bed for, a good 10 hours, I think the circulation, the water tablet we're giving her is causing problems. We discovered that with a nurse coming out on Monday, that she's got a white ball, and it could be a cyst, is what we're thinking of, that's pushing into her shin, just under her knee. And that's what's causing the pain. So she puts her foot down and the shooting pains go up straight to her knee, and she shuffles along, and it's terrible. But you need an X-ray. And I had a call from the GP surgery on Monday saying that they wanted me to go down and get a high medication product that you could buy off the shelf, but this one's a stronger dose, a Voltarol, a cream that has a gel that hopefully will reduce the swelling and possibly the cyst, and to keep rubbing it in for at least 10 days. This is while we're waiting for the hospital to arrange transportation and an appointment and for an X-ray or ultrasound. I can tell you now, by Friday we had heard nothing, absolutely nothing. And to see your mum cry in the morning with pain, it's horrible for my sister. It's horrible for me. I felt strongly about how this was affecting my sister, even though we're not getting along. My sister is very important in my life, even though we're not getting along. And I'm one of those types of people that think, that's in pain myself. But I try to hide it and be strong. But then I come into my room and nobody sees the emotion that I'm going through. It's the best way, I think. They told me that they would do an emergency prescription on Monday night. And I said, well, our prescriptions are usually delivered by a driver. How's it going to get here? And they said, well, it'll be normal delivery, but if you need it sooner, come down. So, of course, Tuesday lunchtime came along and I walked down, didn't I? Was it there? No. The prescription wasn't even there. So when I went to reception, they told me there's been a mistake. It hasn't been raised and it needs to be signed off, and it will take probably about 10, 20 minutes. I said, well, I'll wait then. But I must have it. I've come down here. I'm a carer. My mother, needs constant attention. And my sister will be leaving at 2:30. So I can't come down in the evening and it'd be another day. So 20 minutes went by, nothing. So I went back to reception and I said, look, it's ridiculous, this. I need that now. And if I'm not going to get it now, I need it driving to our house by the end of the evening. So she phoned up again. It got signed off quite quickly. I went to the prescriber. I thanked reception. I didn't have a go at them. I was just saying disappointment. And it was there. But I did get back home to carry on work at 2:00 late by 10 minutes, which was noted. But I did tell them why, and they did sort of understand. And we started to use the cream. And then she started to complain that her knee on her right leg is causing her distress as well. So we've been rubbing it into both sides. We haven't seen anything great about this. And so my sister chased on Friday, and apparently early next week is when this situation is going to start moving forward in regards to ultrasounds and that sort of thing. In the meantime, I bought my mum some winter socks with grippers at the bottom to keep her feet warm. Happy to do that. My sister's bought some pads. She's now told me she's got her attendance allowance. I looked into this, and the sad news about it is that because of no talk between my sister and I, we haven't really talked about how this money is being utilised. But apparently she's got a backdated cheque to May, and from now on she'll be getting a weekly money that's paid monthly of a minimum of £78, which is great news for my mum. But what you have to consider here is that I fronted the money from May till now, and all my savings are gone, but there's been no talk about whether some of that money is coming my way. And I'm not even thinking about it other than it's in the back of my mind, and I just hope that my sister does the right thing and at some point comes forward and says, this is to assist, this is to help with bringing back some money to you because you've helped mum so much. But that's not up to me, is it? Because it's going into a different account. It's not going into me. And I'm pretty sure when we had a discussion about this, we talked about a holding account, but it's going into my sister's account. So there's nothing that I can do or know. And I just look at it and go, hey, you'd have done it anyway. And that's how I'm looking at that. I would have helped my mum anyway, but I just think it shows a personality of what's going on. Same as me and my sister, maybe she doesn't want to approach the subject. Maybe she's doing the right thing and not using that money on herself, and all of that sort of stuff. I'm pretty sure she's not, but you always have in the back of your mind the distressing bad side of things, don't you? So work was work. I got some training done. 91% completed my first module for part of the training. It went from 23 to 91, so work gave me a lot of time to do some training. A little project got completed, and I did bits and bobs of knocking down certain widgets that showed no movement in trying to cut the figures down. So even though they were only small and people were doing all the larger work, thousands of devices, bulk uploads that make those figures look fantastic for the person that's doing them. I always look at it that, well, if I was on that particular role that week, I'd have been getting those figures. So you just hope that when you get to it, the same thing's happening. So that's my mum, and that's a little bit about my sister and me, and a little bit about, my personal life and work. There's not really a lot else to say, so we'll move forward from that and say it was an average week. I do have a major health issue that's been diagnosed on Monday. I don't want to talk about that at the moment. I haven't even spoke to a GP yet. I called on Monday at the same time as my sister was chasing the doctors about my mum's leg, and I was told that I was on the waiting list to see the GP about my recent diagnosis. I chased on Tuesday when I went down, and I said I'm still on the list, and I got a text message on Friday that said book an appointment. And when you click on this appointment, the closest date is the 29th. Now, I can only imagine that this is a regular appointment, and therefore, if it was life-threatening, I'd have been there a lot sooner. But these are blood tests, and they've come back with a problem, and it puts you on edge. And then I've had the sleep clinic also phone up, and I've told them I still haven't got my driving license back. Again, it's something I chased on Wednesday, and they said it is in the system, and you are marked as having it been looked and cleared at the moment. That gives me inspiration that it will be next week. And the sleep clinic I had to cancel, and they're considering couriering a device for the end of next week. We'll see how that goes. And, you know, I think it'll be something like the 26th or 27th that'll happen. It'll be the Friday. And we'll see what the results of that is. What I will say about my sleep is that when up until my holiday, I was getting 2 to 3 hours sleep registered on my watchy thing, which I don't consider a medical device. It's now up to 5 and 7 hours. Great. Although it always says poor sleep. And it also states that a high level of stress may have disrupted your sleep. Like I said, I've always considered that the problem has been fatigue and stress, not gasping for breath or pains in my heart and all of that sort of stuff. I would say that some of that can be that, but most of my problems have been stress and fatigue. So that ends that, really, doesn't it? We'll go therefore to the shout-outs. Yeah, the shout-outs. It's weird what's going on with YouTube, and I'm not overly concerned. But the nice thing about this blog is that it's one of the highest watched things that go on, and it's never ever for the last 4 years, for the last 3.5 years, been below 100 watches. It wasn't even at 60 on Friday. And I spoke to a friend of mine, Mark, and he said the logarithms are all over the place, mate, at the moment. Wouldn't worry about it. He said, I've seen the drop on mine. I think it's the little people that are not being pushed at the moment, and that it will probably return to normal. And I think that as well. And it's not really about the figures anyway, but it's nice that it's watched and listened to and that. And that's why I have to give out big shout outs to these people. There's more than last week, loads of comments. I want to do a big thank you to all of the people that watch, but these are the people that commented. No particular order. There's Wee Bob Art, Ian Hill, The Ramblings, Sandra Clark, Frank Holder, Steve's Gaming, Part 2, Martroyd, Colin Jones, aka Ponder, Robert's Retro Gaming, and my mate Denny, who I haven't heard from in a couple of weeks, and that's been a bit distressing to me as well, because I love our conversations and I love his comments. You know how much I used to say it used to be war and peace with some of the stuff that came out. So, yeah, it's been a weird one, a weird week, and one that I'm not going to put down as bad. It's been one of those learning ones. But the thing about it is I know where my mindset is at the moment. It's all over the place, right? But I haven't even opened up YouTube before this to get the comments up, so I'm going to do it now. You might hear the keyboard going a little bit here, and I'll log into my account and I'll bring those up very quickly. There we are, and I'll go to manage, and hopefully I can bring this up quite quickly. Yeah, and comments. And they're not in any order. I just need to click on the read more, because there's a lot of text to all of these, and they won't fit in the little gap that they've shown here. So yeah, I'm going down, and the last one right at the bottom has got a lot of text, And there we go. So, as always, I'm just going to start at the top. And the top one is Denny. It was actually left, says here, it was left 4 hours ago. My God. So, it might be in newest order. I don't know. The sort by has not got a listing here and what it is. But it says, hiya, mate. Not a lot has happened since my last comments. Work has me locked down tight. The last month has been truly difficult mentally in my occupation, and home time seems to be extremely limited, though I have taken the time to indulge in a couple of games to alleviate the stress when I can pinch an hour. Yeah, that's the one thing I wish I could do at the moment. It's some of the reasons why you haven't seen some videos from me in over a week other than the blog, but that will change. I've got to have that thing that takes me away from stuff, and so it will be mentioned if I don't get that time to myself. He continues, good news is I have a week off from Monday onwards. Hopefully we can get that chat. I appreciate it's difficult due to our current situations. Yeah, it bloody well is. Cool, that was a loud knock from the phone. I better turn the sounds off on that. Just shows you again I'm not thinking ahead here and turning stuff off. So I do apologise for that. But Denny continues, Alien Earth has come to a close, and I have to admit it's probably one of the better Disney productions in quite a while. A different slant on the franchise, which is refreshing. It's probably how I will retrospectively look at it. I gave my opinion of it last week because I did get caught up, and I was getting a bit dismayed at some of the writing in it. I haven't got to the point where it's the end. So I did say I think that this Wednesday was the last episode, the 8th. So I think I've got 2 episodes to go. But it was becoming very formulatic. I was excited at the beginning. And it just became sort of like an episode of Lost as I was getting to the 6th episode. That muddled feeling you get. So looking forward to the end then, where I can retrospectively turn around and probably agree or disagree with Denny there. I'll try and do that. Artistically, I think he's put the AI package I've been using on and off. Definitely learning more as I go along to get that perfect quote for the art I'm after. It's all about the prompt. Don't quite get that, but I do know he's very high up in doing his art correction. So he's doing what I used to do with comics, where you get a scan, it's rough, you square it all up, you use tools to clean up the image, get the right brightness and contrast and all of that sort of stuff, which is quite easy in black and white but hard in colour. And then get that balance of the highest brightness point, the lowest brightness point, the mid-grey level point, to get the perfect re-representation of what the page should look like, which the scanner picked up all the defects. So, yeah, a good use, I think, of a tool AI can be for that. But, like anything, we all have our opinions on AI. For me, that sounds perfectly acceptable. Great. I hope it aids him. I love his content when he brings it out. And there's not enough of it, Denny. Come on, pull your finger out, mate. So he continues, quite a few arrivals this week. Hope to sort out the last few months of stuff that's arrived to do a video. This is where I'm saying we need Denny and to get that stuff out. I'd love to know what he's bought. And then he's got a question for me. A question for this week. Do you consider auto fire cheating? Right. I follow certain channels which show 1 coin completes of certain arcade games, mainly shoot 'em ups. where it seems fashionably to use auto-fire. Auto-fire was not a part of the original game concept. So how do you get any sense of achievement out of using an exploit in this manner? To me, this cheapens the experience. And do you know what? When it comes to arcade games, where you had a machine and it had a button and it said fire, right? There wasn't a little toggle at the top that said auto fire, right? And you were supposed to get to the end by firing, and it had to be your own finger responses to do it, right? Auto fire on a joystick. I was, back in the day, loving it, right? Oh, I could put an auto fire on. Yeah, I'm going to get through this. That stream of bullets, they won't have a bloody chance. As I've gotten older, I've gone, well, the arcade never had it. If the game was needing it, then you'd be able to just hold the button down and a stream of bullets would come out. If you tap it and fire comes out, that's all you get. That's it, right? So yeah, in many ways, I have to agree with Denny. It is a cheat of a sort, and one that I'm happy still to use for my own personal use, to see further into a game without using unlimited lives and unlimited energy and all of those hacks. If it's on a piece of hardware to auto fire, I'd go, yeah, all right, why not? But a one shot, a one coin challenge or something, where it's an arcade game, and it's an arcade game from our arcades, emulated for you to do a video to show you the end. Auto fire? No. Absolute no. I wouldn't use it. Sorry. That is a cheat. Good discussion for that one, maybe. Like I said, I'm guilty of using it, and I've used it in my childhood, and I've not used it at all in later life. And one that I haven't really questioned in videos. I've seen my friend Mainmeister do a Sunday stream, say, with his games. Never once have I heard him say, I'm switching auto fire on now. Right? And he uses many joysticks, and some of them have been custom made, and I bet you any money auto fire's not even on there. Right? So, in fact, actually on my controller, right, this is an Elite 2 controller. Quite expensive when I bought it, over £100. You can see all of the buttons at the bottom and the buttons on the top. And lo and behold, it's got no auto fire. So, as far as I'm concerned, yeah, even my controller doesn't have it. So, nah, won't be using it. Nice discussion there, Denny. Thanks very much for your input. Absolutely wonderful. Going to read one more out before I take a quick little break. I need to get some more water for a start. And we get to Wee Baba. Great bloke. You want to see his channel, right? Does all this artwork, talks about movies. So looking forward to his next one. I haven't seen one for a while. But he's a family man. It's to be expected. YouTube is always secondary. And to be quite honest, that's how YouTube has been for me this week. Only that I explicitly stated at the beginning of my blog that when I started this, that the blog would be done on a Sunday. And it's a diary. It's a diary note. And I haven't missed one other than when I had my heart attack. And even then I did a blog that wasn't blog. So, and that takes me back to what this actually is. This is a diary, right? It's my thoughts, right, of the week. Just because a thought is there doesn't necessarily mean it empowers your life, takes over, or is what you consider your thoughts during the day. And things change, your emotions change. So it's a snippet of today, and actually at this specific moment in time. Just like a diary would be if you were writing it down. If you ever read somebody's diaries like the Kenneth Connor diaries or the Frankie Howard diaries or any of those, you'll see lots of negativity and positivity in those things. And we can look at them and scoff and go, oh, that was a nasty thing to say, wasn't it? But that was the mindset of the person that wrote it down at the time, where it was probably hurting the most. And that's what you have to consider when I'm talking about my mother, and whether I'm talking about my sister, and whether I'm talking about situations. It's all about where we are. So anyway, Wee Bob Art, he says, hi Del, just catching up with your blogs and unsure if I have finished the one previous to this. I will go back as I normally do to watch it. Anyway, I have been away on holiday to the Isle of Wight. I know you are not getting a chance to do these things, and I look forward to a time when you perhaps can get some time away to recharge your batteries, etc. It was a 10-hour plus drive from Ayrshire, where I live, plus the boat, coming into Southampton yesterday. There is a flare stack at the industrial part of the port, and it reminded me completely of Blade Runner. We had two of my kids with us, aged 17 and 19, and even they mentioned that it looked like a game or a dystopian world of industry. Anyway, I hope things improves on the life front, and I will keep hoping that for you. Sometimes you do say things that don't make sense to me, but everyone has a different life. In this case, I wondered why your sister doesn't have a key to the house in the circumstances. Perhaps something you guys are considering. Anyway, with everything going on, I'm sure that is not the only hurdles you are trying to navigate. Yeah, you'd have to read the blog from last week, really. The things that are going on between my sister are not great. Now, what you have to understand here is my mother never gave the key out. My sister had the key once, and my mum insisted it was returned. And I did question that with my mum, and this is before dementia, and she said, well, I haven't got a key to her house. I don't walk into her house, do I, at any time? This is a private house, a house where you're supposed to feel safe. That was my mum. Now, rolling on to care, I live here. I'm a live-in carer. Anything that happens, I'm here, right? You could say, yeah, but what if you're sick and all of that sort of stuff? That's when things will possibly change. But how would you like it if somebody could walk in and open your post? How would you like it if somebody walked in and just basically could do what they want? You know, I mean, a lot of this house has got my stuff around and it's got my mum's stuff around, and we're only concentrated on the care. So why have you got a person there for having their post and, who don't live here sent to this house? Right? Now, I questioned that, and my sister, and I totally agreed with my sister. Yeah, but I'm here, and I might miss the post at my house. So I know that if I wasn't here, you'd get it. And I went, yeah, get that. Totally not a problem. But when you have an argument and you've even got the husband of your carer, your sister, threatening you, would you like it that person could take the key from my sister, walk in and could do anything? No. So that's got to be resolved. And the other thing is that we've got one key other than the key that's on my car key ring. We can get these cut, by the way, but it's always in the door, right? It's got no electronics to it. It's just a locked door. And if that key's in the other side, you can't get in from the other side, right? You put a key in, the key's already in from the other side, so you can't get in. It's just the way we operate in our house. So basically, if I was really ill, the key would probably be in that door. Now you could say, oh, well, that's just a life thing to change. Pull the key out. That's quite true. And like I say, all of these things will be addressed as things progress worse. But we've got to get this situation between my sister and I sorted, and as soon as possible. And we've got to, because we're addressing other things at the moment. What you have to understand is it's getting darker, right? And my mother is getting more and more tired and wants to go to bed earlier. We mentioned this earlier on. And I need to get to a stage where really it doesn't make sense for a person to have to come back for a 30-minute job, which is to put my mum to bed. Also, what's the need other than it's nice that my sister can say goodnight to my mum each night. Now, I can do it. I've done it loads of times. But I totally get the emotional aspect of it all. But when my sister does come in, she takes over. I could do it, but no, she takes over. And I understand that because it's girl with mum, and my mum needs to be cared for with her private things, which is the reason why I didn't do this at the beginning. I mean, a bloke, and in this case the son, caring for your mum's backside and front bits, as I call them. Not fun, is it? You know, she needs things like barrier creams and all sorts of stuff. So it makes sense, but it does mean I'm put to one side. I'm apprehensive before my sister turns up, and then the caring is done, and then she has to wait for a bus or whatever it is, when I could have got it all done and I'd be in bed. See what I mean? And that again needs to be addressed as the nights draw in. So yeah, lots of things to discuss there, Denny, and it's not as clean cut as anything. You then continue, anyway, I wish you and your family all the best, and I do hope things become easier. I know your mum is not getting better, but in life things could perhaps improve at some point, hopefully through external help or something. Yeah, we're always looking at that. I've got a question for next time, if I'm not too late. Talking about the flare stack, are there any areas local to you or that you have visited which that movie, that's Blade Runner, has been perhaps inspired by, or a game? I hope that makes sense. All the best wishes. So a flare stack is that big, it's a big pylon-y thing, isn't it, with a flame? I think I've seen them myself. But have I seen anything around here like that? No, we're not really anywhere. I'm not really anywhere near any gas plants. I'm definitely near no docks. But when I was in Manchester, I did have to have something crushed up, and I had to go to a tip. And they had a big crusher, and I tell you what, this crusher looked like teeth. It was sort of like this. It wasn't the flat ones that squeeze. It was like this. And when you looked at it, because I was above, I was in the main sort of like hut, looking down at the tip, it looked like it had eyes. And it looked like a mouth closing in. It was like a Venus flytrap. And right next to it was a burner. And the door was open on this burner, and flames were sort of like licking out slightly. And I was going, wow, this really does look industrial. And then the other thing, when I was in Manchester, I was driving, where were we going? Heading towards Salford, if I remember rightly. And there was these big white cylinders. I'd seen them before, big white cylinder with scaffolding around it. And Brian, and that was his name, it was my girlfriend's dad at the time, said, yeah, that's a gas container. And I went, all right, a gas container. He said, yeah, used mostly for coal gas, actually. And he said that scaffolding, right, is to hold the white cylinder, and it raises out of the ground, right? It goes up like that as it gathers the gas. And then the gas is used and it sinks back down, and that's why it's got this big scaffolding, because sometimes it can rise to the top and other times there's no gas in it and it goes to the ground. And I thought, wow, that's a interesting thing to know. And the reason it came to mind was there was 5 of these in a row, huge things they were, And I thought to myself, wow, that looks industrial and looks dirty, and all those things that make you think cyberpunk, you know what I mean? Because I mean, I've been to places where lots of lights are, you know, like Las Vegas or Blackpool, that give that neon effect that Blade Runner had. But Blade Runner was a flyby at the beginning with flames all coming out, very industrial, you know. It looked grimy, dirty, and then it was super emphasized by when you went into the city and he landed, it was all rain. It looked like Tokyo in 100 years. And there was lots of stalls for food, and it didn't look like, and there was a lot of people walking around, but it didn't look like it was a shopping thing. It looked industrial. And yeah, it's a shocking dystopian future look. And I totally get where you come from. What a fantastic question to ask. Thank you very much. And please do go visit his site. It's wonderful. The amount of art he does, it's gorgeous, you know. I wish I could draw like that. The only common thing we've got between each other, really, is we both use something called Rebel or Rebella. He's got the latest version. I've got the one below it. I didn't get the newest one, just purely because of where I currently am. But I'm just going to go and get some water, and then I'll be back. So won't be a moment. And I'm back. I still forgot my water. I went to have a look and see how my mum was. But there you are. It just shows you what my mind's like at the moment. But I wanted to continue. So basically, we then get to Ian Hill, the Ramblings, you know, the person I collaborate with on a Wednesday and really, really enjoy. And I just can't help but say thank you for that, because it really does take my mind away from things. And it's just marvellous for me. But he's basically said, "Hi Del Boy, hope you and your mum are okay and you are managing to get some good sleep. It makes such a difference to your mind and body. It was good to be back to our normal Wednesday slot for the live stream. We had a lot of fun. I enjoyed it always, a good interaction with our regular supporters. I couldn't do the live stream without you and them." Well, see, what a nice thing to say. I mean, I must admit, the regulars that we have in there are just such great people. We take the piss out of each other. You need that. You need a little bit of that. You know, you can be on the downside, and sometimes it could, you know, when somebody's taking the piss, sometimes it can be not nice. But you have to remember, it's all done in jest. It's not intended that way. It's just how your mindset is. It goes back to what I was saying. This is at the time how your mindset is. When I go in to deal with Ian, we put everything that's going on in your life to one side, and you know, you cover your face in a mask, you know, that basically says, hey, everything's all right. And you talk about the things that you want to enjoy and talk about. So it's no disrespect or anything, to be quite honest. But he continues, "My week has been okay. No surprises or things happening out of the blue. I'm definitely stuck in my own ways and don't like disruption or changes in my routines. Maybe it's just another sign of how getting older can change your outlook on life. Every day it can feel like a bit of my past life slips away. I think maybe that's why I become more nostalgic about my life. Also, increasingly, I don't want to know about the news. At one time, it was all very simple. Now, social media and other influences have changed our perceptions. It's all about our opinions, not facts. I did watch some films this week. I will talk about two of them. The first was Constantine, which I was looking forward to this. It sounded interesting with its religious themes and comic book origins. However, for me, it was spoilt by all the CGI. I wanted more about the characters. It was just okay and seemed like a missed opportunity. My film of the week was Le Dolos, 1962. It's directed by Jean-Pierre Melville. He was inspired by the Hollywood gangster films and making them in France. I love this film noir. Great acting, great cinematography, and great directing. Filmed in black and white, full of atmosphere. The lives of these criminals was fascinating. It was in many ways a bleak film, but so enjoyable. It made me want to watch more of these types of films. So my question this week is there any bleak and depressing films that you've enjoyed? All the best wishes to you, and have a reet grand time. Reet grand time. He does it like this. Reet grand time. I've got to remember to do that. You can tell it's sunny, can't you? Bloody hell, the light. It's like summer, but it's cold. Bloody hell, it's cold. Wow. I have to say, a lot of the films I've watched and enjoyed have been bleak films, and that's really weird, isn't it? But they've all been dystopian futures, you know? The type of film that you think to yourself, well, I hope things or life changes so that we don't get to a future like we are. But in most of the time, they seem to like they're coming true. So when I think about this, it's all dystopian future ones, really. I think there's one I could probably mention that is real life. But we've got Children of Men. I think that's an obvious one. I know a lot of people who regard that film as absolutely fantastic. And I when I watched it was in awe. I thought it was great. I've mentioned a couple of these or loads of times, and those are Soylent Green. You know, that's all about hunger and food and where we're going in life. Omega Man, or Last Man on Earth, whichever way you want to look at it. That one's been redone. I Am Legend. It's been redone many times. You're the last man on Earth, and there's a plague, and the people that are left are all like zombies. They're not zombies, but they're like zombies. Yeah. I know I got a great benefit of watching 12 Monkeys, but it's more a time travel thing, but it's very, very bleak. But if I was to think about real life, because you were talking about a noir film, haven't really got any noir films to discuss, because it's one of the things I haven't watched an awful lot recently, and can't think of many in the past that I've watched, although I'm sure that there's some Cagney films I could probably come up with. But Elephant Man springs to mind. What a film. What a film The Elephant Man is. And you've got to turn around and say what an enjoyable film it is, but what a bleak film. John Merrick, his life, how he was treated, the griminess of the Victorian age that he was in, the way medicine was at that time, the way people looked at things where people are different. Yeah. And I did see an animation years ago. Grave of the Fortress, I think it was called. Yeah, Grave of the Fortress. A couple of siblings running away from a war in Japan. And it was so bleak. You thought to yourself, wow, this is animation aimed at children. And like Watership Down, it moved me. The Watership Down just being about rabbits, this one was real life. 2 kids, a war that actually happened. It was in the Pacific. Yeah, that's definitely. Do you know what? That's a film I want to see again. Thinking about it, yeah. Grave of the Fortress, yeah. Don't know what year that was. I think it was late 80s, probably early 90s. So, a time where I was interested in Akira and things like that. I was watching stuff like that. So, in fact, actually, I don't think I've got the film. Wow. One I think I'm going to have to do a little search on, I think, after this. Brilliant question. Thank you so much, Ian. Salute, my friend. So looking forward to this week. Brilliant. And we moved to Frank Holder. I haven't heard from him for a couple of weeks. Says, hey, Del, hope you are good and handling things okay. Can be a real drag at times, but you're doing good by your family. That question about space in your last blog, do you think man will ever stand on another planet? Asked me years ago and I would say yes, we will stand on Mars one day, but ask me now and I have to say no. The way our world is doing, we seem to be going backwards. I sadly think we will never stand on a different planet than Earth. Let me ask you a question now. Who do you think is the all-time and biggest star of Hollywood? Wow. All-time biggest star. I mean, the first one that comes to mind, and my mind is muddled, it's got to be Clint Eastwood, hasn't it? My God, the man's done so much, and he's in his, 90s now? And he's still directing and acting, never retired. We talked last week about Michael Caine. He could have been a contender. Wow. I think I'm going to go with Clint Eastwood. You know how much I love Dirty Harry. And the comedies, Every Which Way But Loose and all that, always bring a smile to my face. And it's just his grumpiness, like Gran Torino and even in Cinderella Man. I could list so many, Untouchables, the spaghetti westerns. Yeah. Clint Eastwood, gonna go with that. Thanks very much, Frank. Salute to you. I hope your week's going really well. We move on to, here we go. My mate Steve's gaming part 2, little bastard, fucking shit. Hey, you little bastard, you just too good, Fantastic fella, I do that. It's a salute. It's the law. I have to do it. It's the law. He knows I do it in jest. What's he put this week? Come on, let's see what you see. I'm rambling, aren't I? Hi, Del. Hope you are okay and your mum is as good as can be. Sorry to hear about your family issues. I hope everything is sorted in a good way as soon as possible. I was sad to hear of Robert Redford's passing. He was not only a great actor, but a great guy too. People are talking about his best films, but what about some of his underrated films that I love, such as The Great Waldo, Pepper, or A Bridge Too Far, or Brubaker? Okay, how about some questions? I have to address that and say, yeah, we actually listed quite a few films on Wednesday. They weren't always like Butch Cassidy, which everybody, I think, mentioned. You got to, really. I mean, it's a defining film. But yeah, there were a lot of other films that could have been brought up. I'm pretty sure A Bridge Too Far was mentioned. I can't say about the other two, but I'm pretty sure they were. And what a great guy, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know his background. I mean, he had polio when he was a child. Some people were quite nasty at the beginning because he's quite, his face is quite cratered when you look closely. It's because he's got a lot of moles, but they don't come up. I mean, I've got them. Look, I mean, if you look at my face, I've got moles that are appearing, but his went inwards. And the only danger you have with that is they could get melena. Is it melena? Could definitely something that's difficult. But even when you look at his life with his wife, I think he lost his first child. If I remember rightly, it was in the first 3 to 4 months. Cot death. And if I remember rightly, another news story, it wasn't too long back, his elder son died of cancer. Nobody nobody, no parent I think that I can think of in existence wants to outlive your children. Just think what would happen if I died before my mum with the disease that she's got at the moment. She could be at the graveside not knowing who this is. What a thought, horrible thought. So yeah, what a man, what a great man. Let's put it to that. Marvellous. So your question, let's go to the question, shall we? What game or DVD box has remained sealed for the longest time in your collection? He's doing this on purpose, you know. He knows there's so much sealed stuff I've got because I've just literally got no time. But I will say this, there was a time game was just going under. They had to sell everything. And at the last minute they were bought out, but they'd sold a lot of their stock. And this was a time where I had effluent money. I was just being made up to manager. My wages went up 8,000 in 1 year. I'd never seen anything like it. It was like a prosperous thing. It spurred me on. Not only did my career flourish in the probation service at that point, but it's one of the regrets that I have because I didn't enjoy it and I had it taken away. So it's one of those things I look back at fondly now. And I bought things like Gears of War with a statue and Skyrim with a statue. And I'm pretty sure, because I've got nowhere to put the statue, that I put all that stuff in the attic. It's still up there. And it's sealed. So that dragon statue in Skyrim, never seen it. Never looked at it. And it's one of the reasons why I haven't played the game. Yes, I am one person in probably the whole of the UK that's got the game and has never even loaded it, installed it or played it. I've got to change that. But time. And I had all the time before my mum's illness. And it's not a regret. It's just how things could be different, couldn't they? Really. I'm going to go with Skyrim. There's probably more. Question 2. What upcoming games are on your buying radar? For me, well, I'm totally shocked. I've just looked at the list of games released in October, November, December, and there isn't a single game I actually want. Wow, that's a surprise. Anyway, all the best, my friend, and give my love to your mum. Do you know what? I've taken my eye off the ball so much in regards to Steam and the Switch and PlayStation 5 and all of that. I haven't even got an idea of what's going to be released. I'll tell you what, the best way to do this is on the fly, type in the question into Google, what games are coming out in October, November, December for 2025. Searching, it says. Generating. Here we go. Major game releases in the fall of 2025 include October's Battlefield 6, Pokemon Legends, Z to A, Little Nightmares 3 and Outer Worlds 2, with November 25 bringing in Europa Universalis 5, Age of Empires 4, Unbeatable and Dinkum. December 25 is set to release Metroid 4, Beyond and Octopath Traveler 0 for Xbox Series X. Also, Grand Theft Auto is penned and slated for the end of the year. Oh, right, okay, Grand Theft Auto. Okay, so October, we've got Battlefield 6, not interested. No. Pokemon Legends Z to A, not interested. No. Pokemon, never got into it. Little Nightmares 3, the latest horror adventure in the series with cross-gen and cross-platform releases on PC, PlayStation, Xbox and Nintendo console. Little Nightmares 3 could be good. No. Outer Worlds 2, okay, the sequel to the role-playing game for the release on PS5, Xbox, Series X, S and PC. Outer Worlds I liked. Outer Worlds 2 would be one I'd consider. Yeah, Just Dance 2026 edition, the newest rhythm game. Am I interested in Am I Ek? Jesus Christ. Super Mario Galaxy and Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Nintendo Switch. Won't be buying that. Saw an article on YouTube, how much they're charging for it. Ridiculous. It's coming out as a dual cartridge with Super Mario Galaxy and Mario Galaxy 2 in 4K, and Super Mario Galaxy was in 1080p in the last cartridge. I'd be buying that again, and it's a £60 to £80 cartridge. If you want to buy it separately, it's £10 cheaper, so it's $39.99 to buy it digitally and $49.99 for Super Mario Galaxy 2. So if you want to buy just Super Mario Galaxy 2, it's going to cost you 50 quid. Ridiculous. Pricing. Nintendo, you're all wrong. No, won't be getting that. Ninja Gaiden 4, a new chapter in the action-packed hack and slash. Ninja Gaiden, liked it back in the day. Not really interested now. Sad. Maybe there's something different in that. There's one there, Outer Worlds, comes to mind. Okay, November, here we go. We've got to go quickly here. Europa Universalis 5. Well, bloody hell, 4 was hard. I will say that. I played 4, I played 3. I think I played 2, but never 1. I haven't played Europa Universalis 1. 5, therefore. Probably just to keep the collection together. Have I got the time for a Paradox grand strategy game? Paradox being the company. I bet you I'd need no end of time on it. Age of Empires 4, the acclaimed real-time strategy, gets a PlayStation 5 release. Got it on the PC. Don't need it. Kayan, a challenging survival climbing game. Nah, doesn't really hold much water for me. Dinkum, the popular island life sandbox game that arrives on the Nintendo Switch. Saw it on the PC, didn't really thrill me. Digging up, getting gold, dinkum, and building yourself a little farm and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I've got loads of them, and I haven't finished those. I haven't even done Stardew Valley yet. Goodnight Universe, a charming game with releases for the PC, PS5, Switch and Xbox. Don't know anything about it. Goodnight Universe. Anything with universe in the title? Sounds spacey, might be. Football Manager 26, the popular management simulator, is set to be released on PC. Do you know what? I haven't played Football Manager in years. I remember when it used to be called Football Manager 02, 03, 03, 04, 05, all that sort of stuff. Now it's Football Manager 26. It's a spreadsheet program, but a good one. Saps your time. I've been playing some F1's managers. Quite like those. Might go back to football. So you've got 2 possibilities there for November. December, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. I have earmarked that one. It's the highly anticipated entry in the Metroid Prime series, yep. And I haven't found a bad one, but they've never engrossed me to the point that I'm a fanboy. Octopath Traveler 0, the new game in the HD 2D JRPG series, Japanese role-playing game, I think that is, coming to Xbox Series X. If that was on the PC, might be interested. Xbox, not really. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, no, just no. Legacy, Mortal Kombat. Again, Mortal Kombat 1 and 2, all intertwined with the later ones. Yeah. In the arcade and at the time, Mortal Kombat, thumbs up. Later on, when they added all this seeing your bones brittle when you hit them and all of that. Interesting for about 5 minutes, and then not since. Haven't played them. That's, I think, enough of that question for you. There is literally nothing in December and a couple of possibilities in October and November. And I feel your pain, matey, because it didn't list the indies. Why is it that when you do a search, it lists AAA titles and no indies? I bet you any money there's a shitload of indies that probably spark my interest. Some of those games that cost a couple of quid. Not just, by the way, somebody said Vampire Survivors, and I must admit I was intertwined with those for a long time, and I still get great enjoyment out of them, but I'm not just a Vampire Survivor bloke game player. So there we go. Hope that's answered your question. Salute, my friend. You got a great channel, even though I'm going to say, well, it ain't your channel, you little shit, you're a little bastard. It's the law. I have to do it. Moving on. Thank you very much for your question, Steve. We go to Martroid, who's put, got to hit the read more. With the buzz around Windows 11 and Microsoft constantly promoting it, I can't help but wonder, is it really necessary for the average PC user to upgrade? I get why businesses and commercial entries might need to make the switch, but personally I've got 2 Windows 10 laptops that just aren't going to cut it with Windows 11. So for now, I'm not planning to upgrade. Am I making a mistake by holding off? ? I'm not losing sleep over it, but it struck me as an interesting topic worth spending a few minutes on. And yeah, I think I did mention it. This PC here, 12 years old. No, 14 years old now. 14. It's why I'm having... In fact, this blog nearly didn't happen because Logitech updated and it screwed my installation, and I got 100% drive CPU use and CPU usage for the longest amount of time. Had to go into the BIOS, change to optimize settings, and I really, after this, need to do a SFC, a system file check, and a check disk on it, because it's probably screwed a few drivers. And this PC is getting longer and longer to boot, and I've got a funny feeling that it's a memory thing, and I could do a mem test, or I need to look at get the multimeter out and look at the 12 volt and 5 volt rail, because the power supply could be not supplying the amount of power needed for all of the connected devices. Remember, I've got 2 cameras, a microphone, I've got the gaming keyboard and mouse, external hard drives in and out there and again. It's just chock-a-block with USB usage, each one requiring a live rail. Whether you're using it or not, you need to turn things off you're not using, and it could be power that's causing the problem. I've ironed out everything else. My God, I've spent months reading up on long boot times. Could it be Windows search? Could it be the database of the search items needs to be defragged? Could it be sysmain, which constantly maintains that? Could it be network discovery? Could it be, oh my God, the list goes on. Power balance is even mentioned, and then of course you've got the system file checks, check disk, DSIM commands, all sorts. So it's mental, and I could be here forever talking about that. But when it comes to Microsoft's play on this, I don't like it. When it comes to, and the reason for it is the hardware aspect, not for anything else. TPM I know is important, but my God, they want a flat platform, but they're doing exactly like they did with XP. spend 40 quid or $30 or $40 or whatever it is, extend your life for a year, another money grab, or get reward points from Microsoft and get a certain amount, and basically you can have it for free for another year. Self-promotion of Microsoft, bad again. Or don't get updates, and therefore you then rely on virus protectors, which are not going to patch up the exploits. The virus definitions will come down, but it doesn't stop the hacker coming in. It's the back door that you need to block, and that's where updates are required. So, yeah, worrying time. Like I say, if you've got 2 laptops with Windows 10 and one doesn't need the internet, turn the internet off. Got a perfectly valid operating system. Otherwise, your options are a bit limited. So yeah, feel your pain. I'm looking at everything that I can do to save up and get a PC. It is the one thing that keeps me mentally sane. But I've exploited all my money into mum, really. I need a couple of, $1,000 or more to keep this going. I'll find it. Then, so salute, my friend Martroid. Such a pleasure always. The next one is just a plate reserved for later comments from Carl Todd. So he didn't quite get to it. Not a problem, Carl. I'm sure we'll be hearing from you again soon. You left that there, according to this, 4 days ago. I hope you're all okay and well. And Robert's Retro Gaming, that nice person from Canada that's got a great channel that I'm dead jealous of. He's put, I hope you and your sister can find a better place in your relationship and communications. The shared responsibility is hard on both of you, and it's the best way to talk about it, matey. It is. It's a strained relationship, but one that works. But wouldn't it be so much better if we just had respect for each other? Don't feel that at the moment. So it'll move on. And I have to say, salute to my sister for the work that she does. Absolutely amazing. I can only imagine the wealth of emotion that goes through her. And we move to the last comment, which is Colin Jones. My friend Ponder. A salute to my friend Robert, by the way. I'll talk about him probably in his channel a little bit later on. He's put, I hope things with your sister warm up a bit soon. I know it's a tough situation and I can't really begin to imagine how hard it actually is for both of you, but I'm sure any coldness isn't helping any of you. Sending my regards to your mum. Thank you very much. Work performance rankings are complete corporate bollocks. So long as you're doing your job, that's all that matters. Exactly my feelings. Shut up in your face was a travesty. It kept the far superior Vienna by Ultrafox off the top of the charts. It did. It's just amazing how many people out there bought that, for their grand, whatever reason. Like I said, I do know that it was bought here. But then again, I did buy Vienna. I will say that. So don't feel that bad about that. Good memory for the coupe. Mark Fix's Stuff has just made a video on one, has he? I haven't been to Mark Fix's Stuff for a while. Need to look at that. I've been to that Stez Fix. His keeps popping up and Mark's doesn't. Have to look at that. Bloody hell. How house prices have changed. Yeah, exactly. If I wanted to go back up to Manchester, I think I'd have trouble finding something. This was in a bad area. It was Northern Moor, so it wasn't actually Northenden. It was Northern Moor, like there is Sale and Sale Moor. The Moor part being the outskirts and what many mentioned to me, and I don't like to use the word, but many mentioned that it's where the scum go. But certainly the prices were trying to beautify that area, and I take it that's the belt system, the green belt system that comes into play. as you keep expanding. Regarding stuff like comics, this is why I asked for a high price item, and yeah, let me address that. So yes, there are. I've got some very, very, by the way, I'll keep doing this because it's cold, very, very expensive comics upstairs. Mostly Spider-Man. I've got a nearly a complete run from issue 39 of Spider-Man. Couple of Ditkos around about issue 23. Can't afford the ones in good grades. My issue 23 is in a what they consider to be fine. And most of my Remiter collection, which is my pride and joy, is what they consider to be very fine. You know, because then you head into the mint and near mint. And I've bought got some of those from start, most of them from early eBay sales where comics again weren't being inflated with their prices. But there are two important missing issues which I've always tried to address, and that's Amazing Spider-Man issue 121 and 129. And those are important for two reasons. 121 is the death of Gwen Stacy, an important character in the book and a death, and the follow-up, which was the death of the Green Goblin, I've got. But that one is not as coveted as the death of Gwen Stacy, and the cover is classic. 129 again has got a cover that's classic. It's the first introduction of the Punisher as a character. It's got a picture of the Punisher firing his gun down an eyesight and a big eyesight circle with Spider-Man dodging a bullet while in midair. Iconic Remiter cover. But because of that, to get that in a near mint condition would cost you 6,000 or 7,000, probably more now. The Gwen Stacy one even more. First appearances are great, but deaths tend to be ones that get a higher grade, in my opinion. Not all the time, because deaths don't happen that much. But yeah, I would say that the biggest hike I've got is a comic I bought for a £5 and is now worth about £500, but it's not as big as the house difference. Definitely a better percentage than the car. I could have mentioned comics. So you're quite right, really. If somebody gave me £600 to buy Vectrex or indeed anything else, I'd call that justification. Yeah, if it was given me. My initial prediction for a human on Mars after seeing the Starship development was 2035. Now I don't think I'll see it happen. It will happen this century, but after I leave this plane of existence and not with Starship. I agree. I don't get to see it in my lifetime. Metal Hawk does indeed use the same hardware as Assault. I was right. I only saw your video, so I don't know, but it looked like Assault, but in the air. So you can imagine how difficult that is with different planes of height. My question, what is your least favourite unavoidable chore? Mine is using the carpet cleaner, which takes just as long to clean out afterwards. Yeah, hate that. I've got a spot cleaner. You can imagine me being on all fours, can't you? With a spot cleaner. And I use a drill with a brush head to massage it into the rug, and then use the spot cleaner to hoover it away. And then when you've done all of that and you've got grime in the whole thing, you've got to suck up water so that it takes all the crap out of the tube back in, so it's straight into the containers. And then you've got to wash the chemical container out, and then wash the filthy water bit out, and then clean the device where the holes are, because it's got filters, right? To get rid of all the grime and stuff. Yeah, mental. Yeah, takes as long clean the bloody device. But my unavoidable one is similar, but the first one's ironing. Oh, man. Have to iron, but yeah, I hate it. I do it begrudgingly. The other one is steam cleaning. Now, steam cleaning is because of the short length of the bloody lead, to be quite honest. You put the water in, you put some chemical in, turn it on, press the button, steam clean your kitchen. Easy, right? Yeah. Leave it too long, the stains take ages. You then have to clean that bloody cloth head that's on the end. And the lead, I'm forever finding having a plug around the house to plug it into so I can continue. Extension cables, I'm using them all at the moment. It's a pain in the arse. And I've got hard floors in the hallway, tiled floor in my mum's room, tiled kitchen. Awful. Bloody awful device. It's a K Archer as well. Yeah, that's that. So, thank you so much for all your comments. Absolutely marvellous. We're approaching now the watched on YouTube. So I'm just going to take another quick little break and be back in a moment. And we're nearing the end of the blog. Won't be a moment. And I was just gone for about 2 minutes. So we get to the watched on YouTube. And as you know, there's a couple of mainstays here. This Week in Retro, Tecmo, Gadget Show, Chronologically Gaming. This Week in Retro, going to be interesting in a couple of weeks because my friends are going to the cave. But this week it was the Rise of the Nobody, my Computer Vintage Festival weekend, and the Evolution of Elite. And of course, I'm always going to be interested when something like Elite is mentioned. The rest, it was interesting. I wouldn't say it was like golden. There was a couple of weeks ago. There were everything out there. I had my ears open, just great. But always interesting because it is always retro, and most of the time it's going to be a nostalgia fest for me. Definitely a highlight of the week. Tecmo, he did Not a Boombox on the Panasonic SY-PA100. An interesting device. It was a huge sort of like, well, you know those flight bags with those grippers along the edge and all that? It looked like it was bolted together with screws. And on the top, it had a CD player and a rhythm machine and a mic system. And so it's a PA device. And yeah, great. And apparently cost hundreds of pounds when it came out. But on eBay now, about 80 odd quid. But he bought one with a faulty middle speaker, which he couldn't address what the problem was. He thinks it's the power board. Tested the speaker, it's fine. And he bought a second one because they're so cheap on eBay. Thought he could just interplay the bits in between, and came up with another hurdle, which I won't give away because go and watch it. It's absolutely great. I love all that because when you take things to bits, I like to see the insides of stuff. It's great. Gadget Show. I just missed something from last week. There was nothing this week. It was refillable versus cartridge printers, premium versus budget. Yes, the premium one being the refillable, the cheap one being the cartridge. As we know, when you buy cartridges, they're as much as the printers. The printers are coming throwaway. The printer was a $49.99 printer. The cartridges come to 40 quid. So you can see, making the page print to be about 6 pence per page. The refillable, 0.06 pence per page. I can understand it. Price, 210 quid. Yeah. Days of me buying a 210 quid printer are nowhere at the moment. Ink bottles obviously cheaper than the cartridges. The ink bottles are larger, therefore diminishing the price. But it was all about the capabilities as well. They weren't too far reaching, but of course the cost per page meant that the refillable won. There you are. Chronologically Gaming is a joy. We're in 1982. He mixes it with all the stuff that you bought on the computer back in the day, but also the arcade games. He's got a big spreadsheet, and you can use that to see what stars he gave each of the games. Invaluable if you want like a Vic20 database of what all the games were, because he's played them all up to 1982. So we're getting to the end of the Vic20 life. Don't know whether he'll get to the end and do the home brews and whether I'll be alive. It used to be one a day, it's now one a week, and that's why we're still in 1982, and 1983 was where it hit off for me with the Commodore 64, because it was the end of 82 that the 64 had its first little titles, but we'll see, and I'm looking forward to that. What else did I see? These are ones that have just come up in my alerts, to be quite honest. There's a channel called Riddicked. He did a Sega Raids a Citizen's Home video. Yeah, so he reported the fact that this guy who's into restoring things bought from a person who does house and business removals, brought a box of Sega equipment, and some of it was development kits. He didn't think anything of it. He was going to restore them and basically sell them. He had a legitimate ticket from the developer, from the driver that got it from, to say that it was at a Sega office that was left behind. The building had been abandoned, and that it was okay to take from the building owner of the building and of the time. And police suddenly raided his house, took all his stuff, even with the receipts, which he paid, I think, 5,000 to 10,000 for this box. Didn't cut it. Sega even put an injunction on things. All just wrong. You know, he tried to talk to Sega and explain to them how it was and all that. They weren't interested. So, yeah, an interesting video to watch. You can have two minds about who was in the right or the wrong. So we'll move on. It's an interesting one. I definitely recommend it. Adam Martin, who I've watched a couple of times, he did a swap shop versus Tiswas. Who won the battle of the charts? So it wasn't the show, it was the charts. And that's because you got to remember, as a kid, these two shows were something that we watched on a Saturday morning, and they both formed bands. Swap Shop made up a band called Brown Sauce, and Tiswas came up with the Bucketeers. It's a difficult one to gauge who won, because Brown Sauce went higher up in the charts, but it was a one-hit wonder and they didn't do anything. Tiswas did a couple of singles, but they did 2 or 3 albums. Didn't know that. My God. 2 or 3 albums. I mean, that means you had other songs that you could have done. So I think it was a draw. But the reason that one came to mind was because last week, when we were talking about TV on Ian Hill and the Ramblings, we talked about Swap Shop and we talked about Tiswas. So that was interesting. Maybe he saw that and decided to do that video. I don't know. Thanks, Adam Martin. It was an enjoyable video. Then there is, a site called, a YouTube channel called Money Legends. And it was an article called "The Streaming War is Over, Piracy Has Won." Great documentary this was. This was all about how piracy lost. Streaming came along, gaming and video, but this was mostly video. Netflix told us that you could watch your stuff for $4.99. You had family that could actually share your account with, etc., etc. Boom time, and people therefore didn't download movies from torrent sites and things. Over 4 or 5 years, all changed. I think COVID around that was the sort of point. And what did they do? Up the prices, made it illegal for you to share your account, started to add tier systems to If you have it's 4K, but otherwise it's HD or standard definition. That was there. What else did they do? Yeah, made it illegal for you to share your account. That was a bad one. Increased the prices every year. It's now 10 to 15 quid, not $4.99. Got rid of the stuff that you were watching and moved it to other channels so that you had to choose another channel. Oh, streaming, it's just so bad. And what they're doing now is they're losing millions of customers because people are going back to their old ways. And why not? If you had a family night with your kid and you said, right, I'm going to watch Count Duckula, and Netflix then saying, oh, we've lost the license to that, taking that away, and you used to have it in your favourites and have it as a thing to watch with your kid every Wednesday, what are you going to do? Find the next channel that's got it and it's going to cost you another $4.99? Do you just download it? Of course you could try and buy it, but some of this stuff is not buyable. So yeah, atrocious. Piracy is one again. Interesting article. I liked it, enjoyed that immensely. I also saw TV Repair Community. That's in the channel, and it's got he came out with a statement that intrigued me. All flat screen TVs are built to fail. So this is a guy who used to work on CRT screens, moved into the flat screen industry, turned that into a hobby now that he's retired, and he's constantly brought Hisense TVs, TVs that are quite low down, and finding that you can't fix them. They're built to fail. And what he meant by that is that most of them have got what they call LED strips in them. They attach themselves to the sides, shining the light inwards, right? And you'd think that the companies that make them would have come up with because they stick the screen into the bezel, right, with double-sided tape, so tough that you basically break the screen trying to remove the bezel. This is the problem. But if they are strips, you could slide the strip out and slide the strip in with just a side compartment. They don't do that. Now, they thought of it because if you look at the back of your TV, you'll see that there's lots of channels, right, that go across horizontally and down and all that sort of stuff. And that's where the cables go. And therefore, there are channels on the edges that you could lift if it was a compartment that you could unscrew or lift off or slide off. You could put the LEDs there. But the problem with it is that they're not there. So you have to dismantle the whole thing, taking hours. The double-sided tape has to come off. You have to use heat or whatever. And of course, that's delicate to the screen, and the bezels are thinner. So basically, you knacker the TV. So you throw it away, you buy yourself another one. That's why it's there. So they're built to fail. Brilliant. Definitely worth your time on that. Then there was a couple of fun things. A channel called UK Nostalgia that did only Brits remember these old supermarkets. And yes, I can imagine it, because if an American was watching it, would they know Fine Fair? Would they know Gateway? Would they know Summerfield? No. Co-op? No. Interesting. I like nostalgia. And I even asked my sister, even this week, I said, do you remember Fine Fair? She went, yeah, it was in the precinct. Yeah, it did. It changed to Gateway, changed to Summerfield, then went. They had 2 stores, both gone. So yeah, brought back a lot of memories, that one. And then there was a channel called Box Office Babbler, who did an article that I had to watch because it said Planet of the Apes. And the question that was raised, when should Taylor have known? And that's all it was. When should Taylor have known? And the reason they was talking about that is Taylor was Charlton Heston's character in the film. When should he have known that he was on Earth? right? He's got clocks that tell him he's gone through a time stream. He was in space, but he was walking along the planet and he saw plants that you might have identified, all sorts of things. There were apes that knew the history and were hiding it. Maybe that's a clue, etc., etc. So there's a shock ending at Planet of the Apes, and it wouldn't work if you'd have worked it out. But many didn't. We were intrigued in the story, but the clues were there. So at what point? And to be quite honest, I would have thought, yeah, from the plant onwards, there was just too much. You know, fruit was sort of similar, although larger. All of that sort of stuff. There were cane plants, you know, where the apes were growing crops. Too similar. You couldn't have had that such of a similarity. So yeah, totally get it. That was a great thing, that was. So we move to the second heading, film, TV and soundtrack YouTube. And we get to my friend Ian Hill, The Ramblings, who I really do, suggest that you go and have a look at his channel. Please, there's bound sure to be something that you're just going to hit the like button on. If there's a lot, subscribe. Man, he's such a great guy. Brilliant. So what did he do? He did the top 5 war films between 1965 and 1970. They're all under a minute. So if you want to know, he's done comedies, dramas. He's done a load. Sci-fi, I think he's done. He did a Doctor Who review of Delta and the Bannerman. Yeah, we've entered the Sylvester McCoy era, so we're a couple of stories in now. X-Files Season 4, Episodes 21, so he's approaching Season 5. He's moving through that quite rapidly. And he did a live with me. What more can you ask for? I'm in it. Go now. Anyway, no, don't. I haven't finished the blog. But, yeah, great stuff. Then you've got Mondo Celovic Movies. As you know, I'm very intrigued by this guy. His horror knowledge is great. And this week he did 2. September 25th, Vinegar Syndrome subscription time. So basically he's a subscriber to Vinegar Syndrome and he gets lots of titles sent for being a subscriber. And he displays what films have been sent to him. And Hackers 4K unboxing and review, which is from 88 Films. That's the boutique label. So I think a few people have done Hackers, but I watched his, just so you know. Through the Lens, my friend Josh, he did the Long Walk review 2025, so it's a film this year. He said it wore him out. I won't say any more than that. They're great to watch. Do have a look at that. Did you see that? Another person that I know and I go and have a look at from time to time. He did an IMAX review. Haven't seen an IMAX review from him on Demon Slayer. That was interesting. He did a review of a film called Big, Bold, Beautiful Movie. And he also did some Spider-Man gameplays up to episode 18. Yes. So he's moving rapidly on with that one. Then we get to Movie Collector. Actually, when I say that was the only Hackers unboxing I saw, Movie Collector did a Hackers 4K review as well. Movie Collector is a ex-projectionist, so I tended to get more information from Mondo, but that's not taking anything away from Mondo's. His was definitely worth watching. And a new one that I'm starting to watch regularly is Commode on Film. He's the guy who does film reviews on Radio 5, but he's also got a podcast, and I mentioned it last week because he did about soundtracks. This week it was Mission Impossible ranked, so that was interesting because I'll have difficulty ranking those in order. Possibly the first one would be last, but it was at the time a great film. But it was interesting to listen to his opinion because he said, what actors do you remember that were in that film? And which one was the oldest one? Sorry, the one with the oldest career. Can't remember the answer to that. It wasn't John Voight. I think it was Sophia Loren. if I remember rightly. But go and watch it. Brilliant. And we get to the last one, Game and Tech YouTube. These are all friends of mine. Some of them are on my Discord. Most of them, I think all of them are on Mainmeisters. So if you're not, join my Discord, for God's sake. What's that? What's holding you up? Just my little joke. But we start off with Down the Rabbit Hole, as I always do. He did My Cat Jinx Lives On in No Man's Sky. Yes, he got himself a pet, and it looks just like his cat. So there he was saying no more cat bloopers, but Jinx lives on. Ah, that was such a nice story. And then he did a Star Frontiers video, and I have the hardest time watching those ones because I find them very interesting, but I also want to play the game, and I never got to play it back in the day, and it's unlikely that I'll play it now because it is a Dungeons and Dragons type game, and there's no one around for me to play with. So, yeah, sad that, but it was interesting. It was Star Frontiers. How about a nice couple of yeah. It was interesting tale that he told in that one. We get to my friend Robert's Retro Gaming, Canadian royalty. Well, both of them are Canadian royalty. You look like the king. Blah 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 blah. Only joking. But as you know, he does a lot of videos, mostly Atari. But he does other systems, and that's what makes it so enjoyable. He's playing Dwarf Fortress Classic. He's up to episode 5. He's playing Dan Terrific, wants to get to the end. He's up to episodes 13 to 15. And he did a Minecraft play, episode 160. Just goes to show you how much he loves Minecraft. 160 episodes, my God. He did Commodore 64 gameplay of 1943. And he did Atari 8-bit gameplay of Candy Factory, Playback, Kids on Keys, Kix, that's Kix spelt with a Q, Q-I-X, and Savage Pond. Savage Pond was in my alerts this morning, and I watched it before this blog. And it's interesting because Savage Pond was the most enjoyable out of all of those. I will say that. But he came up with some interesting statements, which I turn around and go, do you know what? I want to play this game. But I want to play it because he was saying that he wasn't a fan of the control system. In fact, he said the tadpole does sort of like U-turns. It's like they don't instantly go backwards. You have to go around in a loop type thing, making it awkward to get the things that you need in the game to survive. But a tadpole, it wouldn't reverse back on itself that quickly. You have to have a mechanism that's sort of similar to the creature itself. And I would say with one tail and just a head, it would have eaten amoeba by circling round. So it's part of the mechanic, and I get it that it would be so much simpler if you could just do it this way, but then maybe it would be too simple. So I'm going to stick with the gameplay mechanic and say the game was right, and that, Robert, you just need to practice. But I'm interested and I'm tempted to play that. So that's great. Robert, in awe of your channel, matey. Thank you very much. In fact, in your alerts, my alerts, when I was just away two times ago, so it was the first one, Mooncrester came up as in the alert. So he's done another game today. So he's done 2 today. And do you know what? The first time I saw it come up in my alert, I went, oh, I wonder if he's going to mention me, because I did a Mooncrester short. I've got a funny feeling, he won't. He's probably forgotten, or he might not have even seen my short. I don't know. But it's interesting because he's a very big community person, always mentioning Steve's games. Always, every time he plays a game, he says, oh, I remember playing this months back. Steve playing this. So I wonder if Mooncrester is the time where I might be mentioned on his channel. Don't know. It doesn't matter if it's not. I'm just making a bit of a fun play at Roberts here. So we get to Steve's Gaming. As you know, he came back from a break last week and he did a channel update, BBC Shorts, Hard Hat Harry, and he did some Home Soft discs. episodes 73 to 75. God, the man's got busy all of a sudden. Some fantastic stuff in that homebrew stuff. A couple of games that I went, ooh, I wouldn't mind playing that. One I know that I definitely want to play, but you need the manual. And he makes me laugh. There's one in there that really made me laugh. It was a space one. He needed the manual. He said, why is it D for drive? Why is it called drive? Weird this. I'm driving forward, apparently. Well, it might be because on the display it said Nova Drive, right, which is your engine, and it's got drive condition, right? So D for drive makes perfect sense. But he was only making a joke. I knew he knew that. It's part of the talking, waffling bit that you have in a game when you're playing. So absolutely marvellous. I had a great time with it. Shouting at the screen, saying you duffer, die more. All of that sort of stuff. Great stuff. Absolutely fantastic. Steve's Gaming Part 2. Go there now. Subscribe. Absolutely marvellous. You will not be disappointed. Absolutely fantastic. And that goes for Robert and Keith from Down the Rabbit Hole. Absolutely fantastic channels. And then we get to Colin Jones, again, another YouTuber who I watch every week, and absolutely fantastic, and you should be subscribed to him. But he did Everything C64 challenge called Silkworm, and I remember Silkworm very well, but on the Amiga. So Silkworm is more a nostalgia for me on the Amiga than it was the Commodore 64, but nevertheless entertaining to watch. Absolutely brilliant. 20th Century Gaming did 2 live streams on Saturday. He did a C64 live, and it could have been Friday actually. A C64 live and a Zap Mag issue 6 review where he plays the games that he finds in the magazine. But unfortunately, it crashed halfway through, so he reverted it to a live. So he did 2 that night, but unfortunately it was through technical issues. But still totally enjoyable. In fact, actually, Mark, I saw a game that you might like. It's on the Amiga, and I know that you've got an Amiga emulator now. It's called Hawk. It's a bit like Thrust. I think you might enjoy it. So if you're watching this, please go and have a look, Mark. Mark from 20th Century Gaming. Definitely go there and subscribe. The man is a genius at getting through games. I wish I was like him. I'm not. And then we got Seb's Place. And as you know, from the early days of Seb did lots of going out into stores, buying things, bringing it back, nostalgia, do a retrospective of it, etc. But his production values are now just so good. Definitely worth a watch, because the amount of history that he comes to the fore, and he did do top Crash games, that Spectrum games, that when re-reviewed got a really low score. So when it initially came out, 98%, re-reviewed years later for £1.99. Why not the high percentage, Mark? Why is it subbed down to 60%? So that was interesting. And that's the end of the written part of the blog. So you've listened to all of that, other than Mainmeister, who I definitely is one of my best friends, who does so much. He will be doing probably a stream tonight. If he's not, it will be during the week. He's got some nice and nasty broadcasts where he's asked the industry and friends, what 3 films would you take to an island with you, and what 3 films would you wipe from existence? And it's the wiping of existence that intrigues me, and what people are going to say. It's interesting, and their reasons. So we're going to cut away now and just show a couple of films that came this week. I will be getting back to trailers soon, but not quite yet. Just so busy with my mum that it's making it almost impossible. Just talking about that for a moment. I've got so much stuff, and it's very difficult sometimes for me to choose if I've got what I call writer's block. If I play a game when I'm demonstrating it and I play it badly, I feel bad. The artwork to do for the screenshots, not great. The viewership, low. And so it's difficult sometimes to pick up an arcade game. I could have done this week Kung Fu Master, could have done Ye Kung Fu, I could have done Mappy, all games I've seen. But I thought to myself, why am I limiting it to arcade at the moment? Why don't I do a couple of computer ones? And then I was looking and thinking to myself, when I demonstrate this, I'm going to look a right idiot. Haven't played it in years. Be a bit like my friends asked me to play a game thing. So that's on my mind. And when it comes to films, I keep going down my shelves and going, no, you know, all the way along. So yeah, bear with me. I will get past these moments. Some of the criticism you see that have been there about not playing well and all that got me down a little bit. I can do without that in my life. But I get it why they said that. So we'll go to Overhead Cam. And these have come this week. And I need to thank, first of all, the person who recommended this. It's called Flow. Okay, about a cat. Right. Lovely box. Look at that. Gorgeous. Got a steel book in there. I'll just hold that up to the camera. Maybe you can freeze frame it. There we go. And that was his decision in regards to recommending this title to me. And I really got immense pleasure because I downloaded it digitally, played it, and then ordered it. The next one is Ballerina. It's got one of these 3D type effects on the front, embossed, shiny, brilliant. Good film as well. And the last one is Krull. Wow, Krull from my childhood. Brilliant. And it's a steel book. Really looking forward to it. Just freeze that as well. Yep. So I'm really looking forward to watching Krull again. I haven't seen that in years and years and years. And we get to the end. So I would have put some trailers, but it's been a bit of a manic week. And I've now got a lot of films over the last 4 or so weeks where I can do a trailer next week. I'll compile some. So no excuses. I'll try and do that. And with that, I'm going to say salute and say thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember, the diary is just my emotions and memory of today. And nothing is in here to hurt anybody's feelings. If you have, please accept my apology. It's not intentionally. I love everyone. I love all your content. I watch it every day. That says something, hopefully, about how I'm trying to get rid of my issues, but also expand into other communities. It's always good to feel needed and wanted. And with that, salute. Thank you so much. And until next week, bye-bye.